And everybody should have one of the DigiPens. These are the best pens for the best price I've seen anywhere. So diginet.net. But I suggest, and I mean to get one, I've just been so busy. I know we all are. But it's very, very affordable, very inexpensive to get 2 gig, 4 gig models for your car that'll record for hours. And it's just little hidden cameras going into a little a recorder unit and stored on a little memory disk. Just absolutely essential that we use Big Brother tools against the establishment. In this time and date, everybody needs to protect themselves. So I'm thinking I have to have this on my car just when nuts show up in a parking lot and try to do weird stuff to me. I've had that happen a few times, and then later I drive off and hear them tell people something completely untrue. I mean, it's just good to have this to protect yourself. Diginet.net, diginet.net. And finally, I want to tell you about the great folks at Survival Seed Bank. In a real crisis, having non-hybrid seeds means having the ability to grow an endless supply of nutrient-dense food to feed your loved ones. There have been times in American history, Pilgrims, for example, when seeds have the highest value of any barter item, even silver or gold. There's a war on against non-hybrid seeds waged by the global elite who want to control us by controlling the food supply. Governments are storing seeds. The UN is storing seeds. Globalists of every stripe are storing seeds in the Arctic Circle. Why do you think they're doing this? You know why. Control and power. Solutions from Science is trying to get the seeds out of the globalist hands and into the hands of the people. This is the place to get them. Survival Seed Bank. Get them out of the hands of the elite and into the hands of the people. SurvivalSeedBank.com. That's SurvivalSeedBank.com or 877-327-0365. 877-327-0365. SurvivalSeedBank.com. Okay, going back to our guest with the film Generation RX. Mr. Miller, continuing where we left off after that last break, how they put you on the speed drugs, the amphetamine class, which then everybody knows speed freaks are nuts. They keep upping the dose when they stop sleeping or act weird or are up sometimes and down other times. They don't go, hey, that's what speed freaks do. Causes heart palpitations, heart enlargement, brain shrinkage, all these physical problems, they admit. No, because they're a psychiatric guild, a drug-pushing guild. They don't say, hey, our drug did that. The very culprit says, oh, yes, now we put you on Prozac. Please continue.
Yeah, exactly. And once they have a psychotic reaction and they get put on an antipsychotic medication, there basically is no cure at that point. So they tell you straight up, you could be 16 years old, 12, 11, doesn't matter. They'll tell you that you're going to be on drugs the rest of your life. And, you know, this is one of the main things that really propelled me to produce this film. I could see nothing beyond the murder and the mayhem. I could see no sanity, literally, coming out of the medical establishment or the FDA or the American Psychiatric Association. And, you know, you start seeing, when you peel back the dirty layers, you start seeing how many people who are making the decisions on these drugs are getting payola from the drug companies themselves. I mean, how can it be, I think we're around the same age, Alex. How can it be that, you know, in the record company executives from the 70s and 80s were thrown in prison for payola for getting a few dollars under the table to get a record played on the radio? And yet we've got researchers and scientists and doctors and decision makers who are getting millions of dollars under the table, not reporting it, and still walking around free as a bird.
Well, let me expand on that, just on a separate issue, but it connects into this. You can just Google the term IRS agents cut from billionaires. And there's all these news articles where they got rid of almost all, over 90%, of the corporate fraud investigators from the IRS. Now, you can argue, is it a fair tax or not? Obviously, that's a scam, too. But the issue is they don't enforce on billionaires. They enforce on middle-class and blue-collar workers. Because the criminal class, that's why it came out that more than half of Congress doesn't even pay the taxes. I mean, this is an openly criminal group. Go ahead.
No, I couldn't agree more. And yet you've got a minimum. This is a bare minimum done by studies, proved by studies from Boston University researchers and others, that say that a bare minimum of 56% of the people who are on the panels that decide which drugs get dispensed to our children, 56% is the minimum number of people who also have conflicts of interest with the drug companies. Well, that on some committees, and you're talking about the antipsychotic drugs and schizophrenia groups, 100% of the decision makers on the committee that are ruling on which drugs are dispensed to the general public, 100% of them are getting money from the drug companies, speakers' fees, traveling events, hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars that they then don't even declare to the general public that there is a conflict. Now, in any other entity, if you had conflicts of interest with Boeing and airplanes and the FAA,
you would have to recuse yourself.
Exactly right. And so why isn't it the case with this when we are affecting the lives of our future leaders in this nation? The only answer that I can come with are two answers. One is the dumbing down aspect that you talk about a lot. And number two is just, frankly, just the money that's at risk. And, this order that we've always talked about, it now is reaching way beyond just the borders of the United States in the medical profession into the World Trade Organization. We're tied into it through all of our trade acts, NAFTA and CAFTA and the World Health Organization and all these god-awful things. And sooner or later, you and I and a cadre of other freedom fighters are going to let it be known to people in a way that they can understand and embrace and act on that this has to stop. And it will stop because we're going to make it stop.
Well, we have to. And I think people should get Generation RX, your film, and have viewing parties, show it to their neighbors. We have to start getting in people's business. I mean, they're taking our kids and turning them into tattletales to spy on us and saying that's kosher. It's normal for us to go talk to our neighbors, talk to our friends, talk to our families. When I'm in an airport or a grocery store now, believe me, I'm selfish. I just want to get on my airplane. I just want to get my food and go. But I will walk over and say, hey, listen, I don't want to get in your business, but I really care about, your humanity, or I really care about your child's health. They're trying to push dozens and dozens of new vaccines every year, and these have all been proven be causing a problem. Just do research before you vaccinate your children, and you don't have to take the vaccines. And a lot of times I'll say thank you and start walking away, and they will say, because it's almost like they're thankful. They can't believe another human is talking to them. We've all been trained to not talk. And they'll say, it's not the law. I didn't want to give her or him the shots, but they said I had to. And I'll say, no. Google. I go, do you have a search engine? Yes. You have a computer? Yes. We'll search engine the term vaccine waiver form and then your state. And you just got to give them that form. And they go, thank you. Or other times they go, and are kind of the type that are uptight and scared and don't want to talk. I don't care, though. I'm ready to do whatever it takes to go 110% to warn people, because I see these little kids and I know what they're putting in the vaccines. I know it's a eugenics program. No matter how horrible it sounds, I know the truth. It's hard for me to admit what their own documents say. And I know what the drugging's about. I've seen them at the state level in Texas say it's eugenics. These children are subhuman. And I've talked to these psychiatrists and psychologists. They are on power trips. They are flaming evil. I mean, they are bastard scum. I'm not saying all of them, but the establishment ones. These certainly aren't your Carl Jung or somebody like that who are pretty neat, I mean, it's just these corporate scum. They're these corporate scum. They're to sling rocks, sling dope, sling this stuff at our kids. And I'm tired of these 21st century dope pushers. Go ahead.
Well, Alex, what I was going to say is, the basis of what, when you talk about Jung and some of the others, what was their foundation? It was talk therapy. I mean, if we removed all of the drugs the psychiatric meds that we're giving kids right now, and simply just sat down and talked to them, or had a, quote, expert talk to them, I mean, 98% of them would be doing infinitely better than they are on these meds. So when you're talking about, going back to these immunosuppressant drugs that they're giving kids as vaccinations. I mean, even, again, to draw the parallel, when I was a kid, we got what? Measles, mumps, rubella, polio. That was about it, maybe chickenpox. Now they're on up to 51, 52 immunosuppressant vaccinations by the time they are 8 years old. I mean, how in God's name can anyone believe that this is beneficial to their immune system? It's a sad, sad reality. Not to mention then on top of it that the very criminals that are contaminating vaccines, like the Baxter International people, which, I was talking about a long time ago, and I know you have been on the show, that could have infected hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, and could have killed literally millions of people.